A while back on this channel, I made a video titled 10 minutes of useless information about Rick and Morty, and this video was, well, exactly what the title implies. And while the information was super useless, thousands of people from around the world decided to sit and take it in anyway. And the only thing better than 10 minutes worth of useless Rick and Morty information is 15 minutes worth of useless Rick and Morty information. So without further ado, let's get into it. Warning, as the title implies, all of the information this video is about to provide is incredibly useless. Within the traditional opening title sequence, only about 40 to 50% of the clips shown actually happen in the show, and the only parts of it that have never changed throughout the seasons are the very first and very last shot. Snowball's accountant, seen in Lawnmower Dog, was voiced by Maurice LaMarche. In M. Night Shyamalan's, the fake recipe for concentrated dark matter consists of 2 parts plutonic quarks and 1 part cesium. However, when the Zygerians replicate it at the end, they are shown applying 2 parts cesium and 1 part plutonic quarks. This was most likely an animation mistake, as they do recite the recipe correctly out loud. Toward the end of the pilot episode, Jerry says that Morty's bedtime is in an hour, but the clock in Rick's garage reads 2 o'clock, presumably PM as it's daylight outside. With this in mind, it can be presumed that Morty's bedtime is 3 PM. As a matter of fact, the clock in Rick's garage always reads either 2 or 3 o'clock. In the wedding squanches as Bird Person walks away after speaking to Beth, he is subtly clipping under a glass of alcohol from the background. When Rick and Morty are playing VR Minecraft, they fade into a discussion about a different adult animated show, South Park, in which Morty says they're fast and Rick says or we're slow. This was a reference to South Park airing its newer episodes a week after they're finished, whereas no Rick and Morty episodes air until the entire season is completed, which takes roughly 2 years. This was also a display of Rick breaking the fourth wall, which was a common habit of his in earlier seasons. On numerous occasions, the show has mocked Marvel in numerous ways. However, as time went on, 4 writers for the show have gone on to work on Marvel projects, including Michael Waldron, Tom Kaufman, Jessica Gao, and Jeff Loveness. The pilot episode is the only episode in the series to not feature a post-credit scene. In Rick Potion number 9, Rick is shown putting ice cubes inside of a glass. However, in the next shot, they're gone. Due to rules put in place by the network, voice actors for Rick and Morty are required to produce at least 30 takes of each line. However, during an interview, Justin Roiland once said that Chris Parnell, the voice actor of Jerry, almost always nails his lines on the very first take, and that his first takes are the ones that are most commonly used. Justin Roiland once stated publicly that the biggest inspirations for Rick and Morty were Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, and South Park. Only 3 episode titles contain both Rick and Morty, these being The Richturian Morty Day, Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die Rick Pete, and Rick and Morty's Exploitation Spectacular. The voice actor of Summer, Spencer Grammer, is the daughter of Kelsey Grammer, who is well known for his own voice acting roles, such as Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. The 2 phrases, unacceptable and the thing, have made their way into Rick and Morty at some point, both being heavily attributed to one of Justin Roiland's other characters, Lemon Grab, from Adventure Time. Justin Roiland is not the only Adventure Time cast member to be heavily involved with Rick and Morty, with Tom Kenny, the voice of the Ice King, serving as an executive producer as well as voicing his fair share of characters. The director who has directed the most Rick and Morty episodes in their career is Brian Newton, who has directed 8, these being, in alphabetical order, Autoerotic Assimilation, Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, Me Seeks and Destroy, Morty's Mind Blowers, One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Morty, Prometheus, Rick's Minutes, and Vindicators 3 Return of Worldender. Additionally, he served as a storyboard artist and animation assistant director in the pilot episode. The first episode to not feature Rick is Rise of the Numericons, the movie. The first episode to not feature Morty is Valky Rick. The first one to not feature Summer is M. Night Shyamalan. And the first one to not feature Beth and Jerry is The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, voiced Toby Matthews in Big Trouble in Little Sanchez. Justin Roiland returned this favor, providing the voice of Blendin Benjamin Blandin. The picture of sunflowers seen inside the iconic Smith residence is a parody of Vincent van Gogh's Vase with 15 Sunflowers. On June 7th, 2025, the day I began writing this video, the total amount of Rick and Morty episodes that had aired publicly was 73. The TV show Unity creates for Rick in Autoerotic Assimilation is a parody of one of Dan Harmon's earlier shows, Community. A lot of Rick and Morty stars worked on this show too, including Keith David. The show's keyframes are drawn in Adobe Photoshop, the animation is done in Toon Boom Harmony, and the overall editing is done in Adobe After Effects. In rest and relaxation after Rick goes through the detoxifier, his skin tone lightens drastically, and the old greyish is restored when he retoxifies. The iconic intro music for Rick and Morty was actually composed for Justin Roiland's previous unaired pilot, Dog World. The way in which Rick says the word bitch parodies Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Start getting used to it, little bitch.
Roll me further, bitch.
All of the Smith family members have had their names in at least one episode title, including abbreviations and altered spellings. Summer has appeared twice, Beth has appeared 3 times, Jerry has appeared 4 times, Morty has appeared 29 times, and Rick has appeared 46 times. In closer encounters of the Rick kind, the name Rick is said 84 times. On top of that, 8 of those utterances were in a single dialogue lasting about 10 seconds. Rick reveals that he is allegedly autistic in Season 3, Episode 10.
Is this game popular with autistic people? Why would you say something like that? Because I'm starting to love it.
After the stunt of Rick's crashed spaceship in New York that was made to promote the first season, which I mentioned in the last video, this exact promo was done again at an Adult Swim carnival at San Diego Comic-Con 2 years later in 2015. One of Ian Cardenai's favourite episodes is Rick, A Mort Well Lived. Edge of Morty, Rick Die Rick Pete was the first Rick and Morty episode to be aired in the USA and Canada on the same day. Jerry Smith is the third dad character named Jerry that Justin Roiland has created. The father figure in both Dogworld and Toro and Morrow were also called Jerry. Justin Roiland also has a dog called Jerry. The flu-hating rapper seen in Rick Potion number 9 is voiced by Dan Harmon. During M. Night Shyamalan's, Rick says, "Walk around in a circle the same number of times as the square root of your age times 10. Now Rick is estimated to be 70 years old, which means that if this was said to him, he would have to walk in a circle 83.66 times. Jerry Smith is 35 years old, thus exactly half of Rick's age. Nolan North has played a total of 14 characters across numerous episodes, most notably providing the voice of Scroopy Noopers. The name Scroopy Noopers was created by Justin Roiland to make fun of Dan Harmon's process for making up names for characters. The song that plays throughout the montage towards the end of Fear No Mort is called Time and Tide by Ryan Elder. When Alfred Molina was cast as the voice of the devil in Something Rick This Way Comes, writer Ryan Ridley asked for a picture with him, being a big fan. And while Justin Roiland didn't know who he was, he got a picture with him as well as to not feel awkward. Adult Swim is not allowed to broadcast the episode Raising Gazorpazorp during prime time. When asked what they would do with a Meeseeks box, Dan Harmon said he would task Meeseeks with telling him he did a good job writing emails, and Justin Roiland would have Meeseeks make jokes to make him laugh. During the creation of Season 3, the show's creators hired 4 female writers to the crew, these 4 being the first female writers to work on the show. This mass expansion also caused the writing team to be perfectly half and half male and female, excluding Roiland and Harmon. Aside from working on Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon co-founded, and to this day still is involved with running Channel 101, which is a non-profit short film festival. He also met Justin Roiland through it. The pilot episode script was produced inside Dan Harmon's office at Paramount Pictures. Rick and Morty appear in The Simpsons during the intro's couch scene in the final episode of Season 26. During Season 1, Episode 10, one of Rick's memories of Morty is him picking him up as a baby. However, this doesn't make much sense, as Rick was absent from the family at this time and didn't return until Morty was 14. In the Vat of Acid episode, a grand total of 29 Mortys are killed on screen. The Jerry we follow throughout the show is the only main member of the Smith family that was never seen in Season 1, as the mix-up at the Jerry Barrie happened in Season 2. In That's a Morty, Morty is heard dropping and smashing a plate. However, in the earlier episode Night Family, Rick created 110% indestructible dishes, meaning it should not have been possible for Morty to break one. In the episode Solarix, the family changes realities and learns that the versions of themselves that used to live in said reality pronounce Parmesan as Parmesan.
How do they say Parmesan?
This was then elaborated upon in the following season, in which Summer says, "Pass the Parmesan" at the dinner table. Lawnmower Dog is the first episode of the show to not feature a short scene before the intro. Before Snuffles changes the channel on the TV, there was a burger advertisement being displayed with the text, "Eat your big meat." In Autoerotic Assimilation, Rick mentions valuable facehugger eggs, which was likely foreshadowing the events of the future episode, Prometheus. In the Japanese dub of Rick and Morty, Jessica is voiced by Misa Ishii. A huge plot error that presents itself throughout the entirety of the episode Fear No Mort is that despite Rick never actually being in the hole, we are shown moments with him that Morty wasn't around to see, which doesn't make sense considering Rick wasn't actually in the hole. While this does cause a huge plot inconsistency, it was most likely just to mislead the viewer. According to the flashback, the previous owner of Morty's big arm was left-handed. The most famous Rick and Morty episode of all time is Pickle Rick. During the interdimensional cable show where 3 yellow creatures are shown, Justin Roiland said, "I'll get back to that one," during recording, due to the fact that he improvised all of his lines and truly did not have any ideas at all for them. Brad makes his first appearance in Rick Potion number 9. The Time Cop's weapon is named Chris. The name given to the creatures Rick accidentally created in his original reality, Cronenberg's, is a reference to body horror genre director David Cronenberg. During the news shots in Rick Potion number 9, one of the channels is completely in Arabic, and the text at the bottom of the screen roughly translates to, "We love a little white infidel, send Morty to us and live." This is the transcript for the mostly unintelligible conversation between Jerry and the two Beths at the Thanksgiving dinner. Rick's skin tone is believed to be due to his age, exposure to toxins and chemicals, and a side effect of some of his implants. Rick's iconic burps were implemented by accident after Justin Roiland accidentally burped during an outtake of a line from the pilot episode, but found it so funny he decided to not only keep it in, but then do it again. Then again, then again, and the rest is history. The very first character to be seen in the history of the show is Morty, as the pilot episode begins with him sleeping in bed. However, if we were to assume that the pilot episode doesn't count as a real episode, and excluded the intro sequence, the very first characters to be seen are Jerry, Summer, and Snuffles. In October of 2018, the first season of Rick and Morty was removed from Netflix. However, it was restored just a few days later. In Prometheus, Morty asks Rick if he can use a laser whip as a weapon the next time he fights.
Can I get a laser whip? Okay, but there's no way you don't chop your dick off.
And in Mortiplicity, he actually gets one to fight the decoys. Technically, Anatomy Park, Rick's D Minutes, and Total Recall are the only episodes to take place entirely inside the Smith residence. The store Summer works at in Something Rick This Way Comes is called Needful Things, which is a parody of a novel written by Stephen King by the same name, with a similar plot to Summer's experience throughout the episode. The dimension displayed at the bottom of the interdimensional goggles, C500A, never changes throughout the course of Rick's D Minutes. Following the episode Meeseeks and Destroy, Mr. Meeseeks has made several background cameos in future episodes, as well as another major one in the season 4 premiere. At the beginning of Total Recall, where Rick is seen dumping glowing rocks in the trash, some of them have a strange purple lump protruding from them, which was speculated and later confirmed by the show's creators to be the parasite eggs, hence being what started the outbreak. We also see Rick loading these rocks into his car's trunk at the end of Morty Night Run 2 episodes earlier. Summer is the only regularly occurring female character in the show to not wear makeup. Other characters, like Beth and Jessica, are depicted with lipstick and eyelashes. Inferred from numerous voice lines across numerous episodes, Rick's spinal cord has a voice-activated system that can release numerous different painkillers, including morphine and Robitussin. Rick is an atheist. In Anatomy Park, Dr. Xenon Bloom refers to the diseases that start attacking the bone train as an E. coli outbreak. However, the life forms seen in the shot are actually bacteriophages, which are viruses that infect and kill E. coli. On top of that, E. coli does not attack the bones, but rather the intestines. Rick Fending Your Mort is the 67th episode of Rick and Morty. The leader of the Zygerian scammers is called Prince Nebulon. Rick and Morty's favorite TV show, Gross, is a parody of the A-Team. After the events of Total Recall, Mr. Poopy Butthole went on to become a professor in African American women's studies. Rick and Morty takes place in the same universe as Gravity Falls. Other shows that are presumed to be based in the same fictional universe include The Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama, King of the Hill, and American Dad. In Vindicators 3, The Return of Worldender, the timer for the first Saw Trap ends at 42 seconds. 42 also happens to be the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. When spinning the wheel of Better Things Than Morty, Rick says, "No whammies," which is a reference to the game show Wheel of Fortune. A single brapple is worth $5.38. In the game Roy, A Life Well Lived, the protagonist's last name is Parsons. Rick Sanchez is ambidextrous, meaning he does not have a dominant hand and can use both his right and left without preference. However, this is most likely not an intentional detail, as quite a lot of animated characters tend to be animated ambidextrously to make life easier for the animators. Trunk people do not speak with their mouths, but rather with their trunks. Their mouths only express emotions accordingly. Rick's credit card number is 1234 1234 1234 1234. In Me Seeks and Destroy, when Rick gives Morty the device to destroy his alien family, the device is actually an NES game cartridge. The top of Dr. Xenon Bloom's cane contains a caricature of Charlie Chaplin. And finally, across the first 3 seasons of the show, the name Morty is said 781 times. Thanks for watching.